So pastors, make sure that you prepare yourselves. You have to know the original languages: Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic. And if you don't, make sure you get under someone who knows the original languages. You also have to have correct doctrine. You cannot be some sort of Jehovah's Witness. You cannot be a Pentecostal. You have to know certain basic doctrines in order. If you don't get those basic doctrines right, you're not going to get a lot of doctrines right. Well, let's continue here because this is a wonderful play of words. Their heart has been opened, with the result that they've become enlarged. And then, first, once you open your heart towards God and you become enlarged, you also have to enlarge your heart towards other people, here towards the Corinthians. So this is the reason why Paul says that his heart has not only been enlarged, but we can also use it's open. It remains open to the Corinthians, but they, as a result, they are closing their heart. They're not following suit as Paul and his team. Paul and his team, they opened their heart and they became enlarged. Now the Corinthians must do the same thing towards their teaching, but they're not doing the same thing that Paul and his team. They're closing their heart because of their emotions. And so verse 12, we're still not done. Well, we barely began yesterday. So what do we have? We have no nominative case, no subject here in verse 12. But in verse 11, we have the vocative, korintoi, korinthioi. Our mouth has been opened face to face with y'all, Corinthians. Our heart has been opened and thus enlarged. And then Corinthians. And so y'all are not restricted, confined. So restricted, confined, blockaded, limited, hindered, obstructed. The emotions hinder your learning. They obstruct your learning. They blockade you. And if you leave a country blockaded for too long, a city blockaded for too long, eventually you're going to run out of resources. In the same way, you with your soul, if you are blockaded by the emotions for too long, you're going to run out of mental content. All the content inside of the heart is going to be nothing but subjectivity. Stenochoreiste. This is the verb present passive indicative. And here they translated it in the NIV as, we are not withholding our affection from you. This is terribly wrong. This is terribly wrong. This is talking about the second person, y'all. Y'all are being limited. Present tense, this is a progressive, well, it's actually a retroactive progressive present, something that began in the past. Since all the way Acts 18, there was always those Corinthians that were negative. Some of them were positive. But then, as time went by, and as they started listening to the Judaizers, many of the Corinthians became negative. And so, it began in the past, it continues in the present. The retroactive progressive present emphasizes for the past, action that has begun repeatedly in the past and still continues occurring in the present. The passive voice, the Corinthians, their hearts receive the action of the verb here, negated by ooh. You are not being hindered by us. You are not being blockaded by us. You are not being limited by us. It is not our teaching that is limiting you. Do not blame us with saying that he's a cheap pastor. He does not have correct doctrine. He does not know how to, does not have great usage of verbiage rather. His words are not correct. He has bad grammar, etc. They cannot say that about Paul. So they cannot blame Paul at all for their lack of learning. The passive voice and the indicative mood, this is declarative from the viewpoint of reality that the Corinthians are being hindered by their emotionalism. So it could be a lot of different types of emotions. It could be those negative emotions, emotional sins, such as hatred towards Paul. Oh, yes, indeed. And it could also be the desire for novelty, for something new, the desire to have their ears tickled. And so as a result, whenever they see a Judaizer come along, hey, come here, teach us, what do you have? And so they want to hear something that excites them. Sometimes Bible doctrine is not that exciting. Right now at this moment, you're probably sitting down right here, you say, this guy's repeating himself over and over again, and it's okay. That's part of your calling. to learn Bible doctrine. And even though I repeat myself, you have to put on top of that and put more doctrine that's repeated inside of your soul. And that's what you're called to do, to receive Bible, and even though it's repeated, you keep on receiving it. But then someone might come along and give you some new doctrine, something new, something more stimulating, something that titillates your ears. And it might be false doctrine, and you bet that Satan is in charge of this. He's responsible for all this. And this is why you have to watch out. If you want your ears tickled, you bet you are emotional. You want novelty. You want something that excites you. Bible doctrine is extremely exciting. Just wait for God to put you in extreme pressure situations and just watch until for him to prove to you that doctrine does work, and then you'll get a little bit excited. Sometimes we're so dumb, many of us, that we do not appreciate something until we finally are put in that pressure situation. And that's most of humanity, unfortunately. We're so hard-headed, so bullheaded that we have to be on the verge of losing something almost entirely, or on the verge of, an extreme situation where we finally begin to appreciate what we have. Here, doctrine is no exception. We begin to appreciate Bible doctrine when we are rescued by doctrine. So, y'all are being, so let me just use, what translation did I pick out of all these? Okay. It seems that I did not put an official translation here, but I do have it though. And so, right now, let's go with blockaded, because the emotions is what blockades you. Again, this is your heart, but just as ships blockade the nation, so that no supplies come in. Here's this great blockade around the nation, on the ocean. All these ships are right here, so foreign countries cannot bring in supplies, weapons, food. In the same way, your soul becomes also blockaded through your emotions. Here you are, emotion of this, emotion of that, emotion that, and the result is you are blockaded. The doctrine cannot go inside. And you only have this much heart left for doctrine. There's no way you can understand it. You are blockaded, you are extremely closed-hearted. Even though you call yourself a thinker outside the box, even though you say embrace all these things, just try it. I'm an open thinker and all that. You're extremely closed-hearted the moment that you are guided by your emotions, or you allow the emotions to control you. So we're going to translate it blockade, restricted as well. So, y'all are not restricted, blockaded. So we have the negative oop, and then n plus the dative of ego. Ego means, in the plural, dative, we. So n plus the dative instrumental, by us. You are not restricted in us, by us, rather, by us. Yes, n plus the dative can be translated as instrumental, even more when there's a passive voice. When it's a passive voice in the verb. The subject that receives the action of the verb is the korintoi. Y'all are being restricted. And so there has to be an agent or an instrument. And so here we have, and hey mean by us. Y'all are not restricted by us. Y'all are not blockaded by us. Paul and his team are not responsible for them not learning. It's true that Paul might not have the great multiloquence as a lot of these Greek types, but still his communication was very clear. And as you can see here with this reading from the content of his message, it is very clear and very technical as well. We still need a pastor teacher that can reveal these things to us. If not, you're going to make a fool out of yourself. Y'all are not being restricted or being blockaded by us, you blocker. And then again, but rather, there we have this adversative conjunction, de. But rather, let's just go but. Stenochoreste, the same exact word, same exact morphology. Stenochoreo, present passive indicative. Y'all are being restricted, blockaded, obstructed. And so this is the present tense again, retroactive progressive present, something that began in the past. Here was denied. You were never restricted by us, retroactive progressive present, from something that began in Acts chapter 18 till now. Here again, now he's telling us you're being restricted by something else, retroactive progressive present. The passive voice. The Corinthians received the action of the verb, specifically their heart. Their heart. And the indicative mood, this is from the viewpoint, this is declarative from the viewpoint of reality, of how the emotions can hinder your learning abilities. Emotions have dynamics, by the way, but don't confuse those dynamics with the dynamics of the spiritual life. Just because something has power doesn't mean it's the correct type of power. Arrogance has a lot of dynamics. Sorry. Emotions have no dynamics, rather. Arrogance is what has that dynamics. Emotions has power, yes, indeed. Oh, it motivates you to do a lot of things. Great impulses. Stupid impulses, rather. Emotions, they have no dynamics. Arrogance have the dynamics. But nevertheless, the dynamics of arrogance are much inferior than the dynamics of the spiritual life. Just because something has power, do not become intimidated by that power or amazed or surprised. Just because a arrogant person has dynamics, neither do you have to become also impressed or surprised. It's easy to be in the cosmic system. It's easy to acquire that stupid intelligence of the cosmic system that you acquire by instinct. Do not become impressed, amazed by people in the cosmic system. It's easy. That's the easy way. Okay, let's stick to the subject. Y'all are being restricted, blockaded. And then we have N plus the dative plural of splachnois. Splachnon. How do they translate it here? With affections. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Excuse me. Splachnois. N plus the dative plural in your affections or emotions. But this is N plus the dative of instrument as well. By, if we're going to be consistent here with, you're not restricted by us, but rather you are restricted by your emotions. The dative plural, instrumental dative. And then we have the genitive of possession of su. Your. By the emotions of you all, of y'all's. By your emotions. Translation says, beginning of verse 11, our mouth has been open face to face with you, Corinthians. Our heart has been open wide and thus enlarged. Y'all are not being restricted, blockaded by us, but rather y'all are being restricted, blockaded by your own emotion, by your emotions. Isn't that beautiful? For you emotional types, if you have Pentecostal tendencies, you need to snap out of it. If you're here listening to Bible doctrine and you're still partaking and amazed by Pentecostal movements, Foursquare, Assemblies of God, all these different things that is very prevalent in the Latin American church. If you're still here and you're still amazed by that, it's time for you to wake up. It is possible for you to be learning Bible doctrine and still be amazed by the Pentecostal movement. They're almost mutually exclusive. They're mutually exclusive. Eventually, if you're advancing in the Word of God, God is going to have to take you out and He's going to say, get out of that Pentecostal movement. Out. Out now. Up to this point, if you're still in the Pentecostal movement or amazed by it, He's been very patient with you. God is extremely patient. But He reaches the point where He says, okay, now for your benefit, son, my son, you're going to have to make a decision already. And if you do not make the grace decision or the correct decision, doctrinal decision at that moment, you might encounter your downfall, your retrogression in the plan of God. So, excuse me. Now, for the doctrine of emotions. Yesterday we went over the doctrine of the heart. I thought we had already gone over the doctrine of emotions, and we haven't. So, the doctrine of emotions.